Hello and welcome to Huntington Bank Stadium. It is time for football, Tony.
Finally.
Timing is everything, and it is time for football. I'm Tom Orr. This is Tony Gerdeman at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have, a little over 2 hours to go till kickoff, 2.5 hours to go till kickoff. And we know a whole bunch of new news about the Buckeyes and who's going to be available tonight and who is not. A couple big names going to be missing tonight. But we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, how nice is it to be in the stadium and there's like band people milling around down there. There's cheerleaders milling around down there. There's people walking around the concourse, like vendors and stuff. Like it's like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like 2.5 hours before a football game.
And even though it's like September 2nd, being up here in Minnesota, it's like 68 degrees, 70 degrees, somewhere in there. It's nice. It's a little cool. You got a nice breeze. Mm-hmm. It feels a little football. It looks like football with the gray skies. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a loud crowd. It's going to be fun. It's a long time coming.
Yeah, we were talking to someone last night who said these night games at Minnesota, it's louder than you think. I think everyone thinks, oh, Minnesota is just nice people and all shucks, and they're going to, eat their hot dish and win 7 games a year. And it's like, no, it's going to get a little rowdy. So with a year of build up to this game, that will be very welcome. A loud, rowdy crowd. We've also seen a lot of Ohio State fans around, so yes. Ohio State will be well represented here as always tonight. So let's talk about the big news that just came out just maybe half an hour before we hit record. Couple starters not going to be here tonight for the Buckeyes. Center Harry Miller, not playing tonight. Cornerback Cameron Brown, not playing tonight. I guess let's start with which one of those do you think has a bigger impact on this game?
That's a good question because Ohio State has a lot of corners, but is Cameron Brown the second best or maybe the first best? That's one of the disappointing things. We won't get to see him. Won't get to see what the coaches view him as in terms of the depth chart. But really, if the games are won up front, you want your starting center in there, and not having Harry Miller in there. Now you turn to redshirt freshman Luke Whippler, it sounds like, and it's a bad place to have an injury because it's the guy that starts every single possession, starts every single play. And so if there are issues, we saw it against Michigan State last year when Harry Miller came in to start as center, his first career start at that position, and it took him a while to calm down. How long does it take Luke Whippler to calm down if he's the starter? Well,
and now you have a first-time starter at center, a first-time starter at quarterback on the road, in the Big Ten, at night. That's like, I don't want to set an over-under on like miscommunications, mistimed snaps. CJ Stroud claps and turns his head, and he thinks it's on 2, and Luke Whippler thinks it's on 1, and the ball goes sailing past CJ Stroud, or a bad snap, or a false start where one person goes on 1 and the other 4 go on 2, and any of those things.
That's 3 new starters on the offensive line from last year. Right now.
Yeah, so is that more of a concern to you in the running game or in the passing game?
I think that's a good question, Tom. I think
2 for 2.
I think everything starts with the running game, and so I don't know that Minnesota has the pass rush on the interior that should really give the guys an issue. But you've got to be able to run the ball, and you've got to establish the line of scrimmage. And if Luke Whippler isn't able to contain his man or his 2 men or however many, then that starts things off poorly. It's going to be second and long if you're trying to run up the middle and he can't contain his man. So, I think it's a bigger issue with the running game than the passing game. What about you?
I think you're probably right. The only thing that you kind of need to get into with the passing game is he's the one who's making the line calls.
Yeah.
That was something that Josh Myers was just like automatic with last year. It was just Justin Fields talked about the fact that it was just you didn't have to think about it, you didn't have to worry about it. You just knew Josh Myers was going to get everyone on the same page. It's just one more thing for Luke Whippler. It's not, Luke Whippler's obviously a very intelligent kid. He's been around for a year, but it's his first career start, and it's at night, and it's on the road, and it's with a new starting quarterback who also has never started before. And you got to figure out the line calls and that kind of stuff. And if it is loud in here, that's just like one more little layer that could make that a little more complex for 2 guys who are doing this for the first time.
But what was Luke Whippler doing in the days after, the immediate days after the Alabama game.
Yeah,
he was preparing for a starting job, and he was showing video clips to Greg Studrauer, the offensive line coach, while Stud is, home having holiday time with the family or whatever. He's getting video clips from Luke Whippler working on stuff, saying critique this, critique that, and he was doing that because he wanted to win the starting job. You prepare for the job, and if it happens, he prepared for it. Everybody else is saying, no, it's going to be Harry Miller or Matt Jones. Luke Whippler prepared for it. Perhaps the Buckeyes are going to be better off because of it.
Almost certainly they're going to be better off because of it. Something else they're going to be better off because of. One name that was not on that list, it was a little bit of a question, was Thayer Munford. Thayer Munford sat out a whole series of practices in the middle of fall camp, and everyone kind of went, oh, no, he'll be fine, which is kind of what they say, whether or not he's actually going to be fine. And so that was one of those, I think Ohio State fans may have been kind of like peeking through their fingers, looking at that availability report. Is Thayer Munford on there or not? He is not. He should be good to play. So that line left to right now, Nick Petit-Frere, Thayer Munford at left guard, Luke Whippler at center, Paris Johnson at right guard, DeJuan Jones at right tackle. Everything, all five of those guys are starting in a different spot than they did last year. 3 of them are starting for the first time. Again, this is a very talented team, and this is the Minnesota defensive line is not incredible. So, this is not an ideal situation, but it's not a total, it's not like sirens and lights going that this is a major problem.
Well, and if it is Luke Whippler starting, that means Matt Jones isn't, and he could start anywhere in the Big Ten, and he's still not starting tonight. So it tells you how deep they are. And even if Thayer Munford wouldn't have been able to go, then you throw Matt Jones in.
Yeah.
He started the last, 3 games last year, 2 or 3 games last year, and did well. So this is where the depth comes in, and you see, we'll see the result of it tonight.
Another thing that I think maybe is not as big a disaster as it could be because of how Minnesota matches up with the Buckeyes is the loss of Cam Brown. You don't ever want to lose a starting corner. You saw the drop-off in play last year when he went down with that Achilles injury against Penn State. But this is not an incredibly deep Wisconsin or Minnesota receiving unit. We don't know about the status yet of their starter, Chris Altman-Bell. Don't have Rashad Bateman from last year. This is not a Minnesota unit that's running 6 deep like Ohio State is. I don't know if Minnesota is super confident even about running 3 deep at wide receiver. I wish they would turn the music up a little louder. Other than I have no complaints. This is one of these. The strength of Ohio State is kind of matched up against the strength of Minnesota. The weaker elements of Ohio State are kind of matched up with the weaker elements of Minnesota. That, to me, seems like that favors Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by a couple touchdowns, and nothing has substantially changed. That's like, oh, that's a big. If Ohio State was missing 2 interior defensive linemen, that would be like, oh no. With it, this is not necessarily as much of an oh-no.
Didn't you say 95% of the betting money is on Ohio State right now?
Yes, I read a tweet about that. 95% of the money is on Ohio State in this game, minus 14. Cincinnati, favored by 23.5 against Miami University, is the only other one that's even close to that this weekend. When the public is real heavily on one team, that isn't always great. That is not always great news for that team. They build casinos that are big and shiny because the public turns out that they're pretty bad at this, actually. So,
but the line really hasn't changed. But if the money keeps coming in on Ohio State, and the sharps want to tweak it, like they kind of cancel each other out a little bit.
Yeah.
But in terms of the passing game, the Minnesota passing game against the corners, I wanted to see Cam Brown. I wanted to see how well he played. How much of it is he the number 2? Do they rotate? Now, if we see some rotation, we don't know if it's because they intended on rotating or it's because they don't know if Legend Cavazos or Ryan Watts or Demario McCall or Denzel Burke, they're looking for that guy. So it's the first game. We know there are questions. Are there more questions than we're used to? And we're just talking about 2 positions at this point, center and corner.
Well, there are more. That's a function of Ohio State replacing a lot of guys. We haven't even talked about the linebackers yet, and they're replacing all of the linebackers. And also the scheme may have changed a little bit there. So it's not only the who, but also the what there. The who, the what, and the where of linebackers are all still a little bit up in the air. We talked about the offensive line. The wide receivers, you're going to be relying on a bunch of guys who really didn't play a lot last year.
Are you worried about the wide receivers?
I'm going to say no. I think it's a question. I don't think it's a concern. There's a big difference there. Linebackers, I don't know that linebackers are concerned, but it's a question. It's like, okay, what is this actually going to look like? So, yeah, you want to talk about concerns, we can talk about the kicking game. I still don't know who the starting kicker is going to be for Ohio State today, and that's a concern. Yeah. I mean, normally it feels like that has come out now. The decision has been made, that it is clear enough that the decision has been made and it has come out, and it hasn't come out yet. And that's like, I don't think that's necessarily suggests to me both of these guys have been too good in practice to discern who's better or not. Ryan Day kept talking about he wanted to see more consistency. That means he's not seeing as much consistency as he wants to. If this comes down to a kick, you may get Ohio State fans again, like peeking through their fingers at what that looks like.
And I don't know if you can see the flags on the goalpost behind us. They're not moving too much. We got a nice little cool breeze here up in higher in the stadium, but it looks okay in terms of the flags. But we'll see. The wind should die down at night as well, so that will make it easy on whoever is the kicker. The punting is going to be crucial as well. That's going to play a big factor into it. Maybe we see some Australian worm burners rather than getting it up in the air. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. We will address them.
And producer Kevin, you let us know when there are questions, and we'll let you. Hang on. Okay, hang on. We're going to give the mic to producer Kevin so he can ask the questions. You can hear him.
Still won't be able to hear me.
Just yell into the mic.
Yeah, the people would love that. I turned up the mics because the music keeps getting louder and louder. Christian Husky asking, how many quarterbacks will we see tonight? Quarterbacks.
Tom, how many quarterbacks do you think we're going to see tonight? I'll set the over-under on 1.
I mean, I think both teams are going to play a quarterback, so I'm going to take the over there. I think I'm not going under, so I guess I'll go with 1 because I think this game is close enough, long enough that if it's a 10-point lead, 14-point lead late in the game, I think you're going to want to just get C.J. Stroud more reps before the Oregon game. You got to, every rep counts at this point, and I don't know that you want to, if it's close enough. If Ohio State's up by 30 points, sure, bring someone else in. I don't think you're going to be at that point early enough to necessarily bring someone else in.
I think with 2 Ohio State quarterbacks, the scenario is either they're up by 30 or C.J. Stroud has been playing so poorly they've had to go to somebody else. I think the more likely scenario is Ohio State is up, so they throw Kyle McCord or Jack Miller out there. Because we've talked about this before, you've got to give C.J. Stroud a leash, allow him to make some mistakes and keep his confidence while trying to get things back, assuming he's going to make any mistakes.
Well, this is one of these things where you have to give him a little bit of leash, like you said, because you can't have him out there looking over his shoulder thinking he's going to get yanked after the first incomplete pass. Like I remember back in the 90s, Steve Spurrier did that with Doug Johnson and someone else at, was it Danny Werfel and Doug Johnson? Or Terry Dean. Yes. Terry Dean and Doug Johnson at Florida in the 90s. And those guys talking about, like, you throw one incomplete pass and you're like looking over to the sideline all nervous, like, is he going to be, calling you over and sending in the other guy? You don't want him playing tight. You want him playing relaxed but under control. And the way you do that is you go, look, this is your job. You're going to do it. You go out there. You don't have to worry about throwing one incomplete pass or even throwing one interception. Like, do your best to not do that. But I'm not going to pull you after one interception. So that's an important thing, just to kind of build up C.J. Stroud's confidence as a first career start.
Okay, Yakov 22 is asking you, what are your thoughts on the stadium?
I like it. I like the smaller stadiums. They're cozy. It's up in the press box. There are no bad seats, and you can see everything. You got the downtown right over there, over here. There's sight lines everywhere. I like it. I like Maryland Stadium because it's small. There's just something about it. They get loud if everybody's here. I don't know. What do you think from down there or wherever you've been?
Yeah, I came down the photo entrance, or the photo media workroom is kind of underneath the stands behind us. So I came out the door that's kind of right next to the red Ohio State tent down there. It's nice. I mean, it's a nice stadium. It's not enormous. What does it hold? 50,000, 60, 50? Yeah. So it's bigger than Northwestern. It's not tiny, but that means it's going to fill up. If you're Minnesota, you don't want a 90,000 seat stadium because you're not going to fill it, maybe ever. So this is my first time here. I'm finally crossing this one off the list. I had this one in Illinois that I'd never been to, so finally getting this one off the list. But I like it. It is a new enough stadium. They built it in 2009, I think, that it is a no bad seat stadium. Like, all the seats are angled towards the field. There are no seats behind posts. There are no seats. Wherever you're sitting in the stadium, you have a good, clear, unobstructed view, and you're not a million miles away like you are in the back rows of Michigan Stadium.
Now, I saw the photo workroom where they keep the photographers and the trash people. And I don't mean the people who handle the garbage, I mean trash people. You know why I like the press box, Tom? They have pretzels up there. Big soft pretzels with, you got a cup of cheese or a cup of maybe something else. Do they have that down there in the photo workroom?
No, they do not. Do they have me up in the press box? They may soon. We'll see.
I don't know that you've got a photo credential, so we may have to point you out to the security and say, do not give that man a pretzel. He is a photographer. You give him trash. Anything else? Do you have anything to add to that?
I think we should take the next question. I have nothing to add that is either relevant or true.
Next one from Nate, or N8. I'm assuming it's Nate. How was the Juicy Lucy?
It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't just your standard cheese either that was, crammed in there. Juicy Lucy, basically two patties formed together around a hunk of cheese, whatever kind of cheese it is, and they grill it, double sides, char it a little bit, and when they bring it to your table, they tell you, danger cheese, it's going to burn you if you eat it now. You got to let it set a couple minutes. And so we did, and it was really good. The burger's good, the cheese is good. All they put on it is pickles and onions, which onions are grilled. Hell, the pickles might be grilled too. I don't know, but it was really good. Very much worth the $8.75.
Yeah, it's a place that when we shot a video there, we'll have that posted on our YouTube channel sometime later, so you can sort of see the burger and get a little sense of the place. But it is just a little hole-in-the-wall dive bar, just in a random neighborhood. This is not like a tourist trappy place where it's like, oh, it's the famous place, and the sandwich costs $27 because everyone wants to eat here. It's like, no. There are 7 items on the menu outside of fries and drinks. 5 of the 7 are burgers or double burgers or cheeseburgers or double cheeseburgers or the Juicy Lucy. They do literally one thing. It is extremely, I pay more for a hamburger at home at just the normal place that we go to in my town than I did at the place that's like the famous, world famous place. And yeah, I think all 3 of us got out of there for $45 before tip. Like, it was just like, that was like an exceptionally reasonably priced, like, very good burger. And a lot of times you have the regional burger that everyone's like, this is so much better than any other burger, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It was another hamburger. This was like, flavorful, good, juicy, as the name would suggest, and very unique. So I would say 2 thumbs up on that one.
Yeah, I would also give it 2 thumbs up. What's next?
We've been asked by multiple people, do we know an update on the status of wide receiver Chris Ottman-Bell from Minnesota?
No, other than it was day-to-day a week ago. So if he continues to be day-to-day at this point, I mean, it was maybe a week ago when PJ Fleck said he started running.
Yes,
which seemed like
Friday last week.
That's like a late start to finally be running and thinking he's going to be full go. So I don't know. Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything final yet on him. I'm with you. That report came out Friday afternoon last week that he was like, oh, well, he started running again. That's like, you don't go from he just started running again to he's playing 50 snaps 6 days from now. That just doesn't add up to me. So my expectation is he doesn't play, or he's very limited and plays in just hey, it's 3rd and goal from the 8. Then you put him in when you really need someone to be able to do something.
Or perhaps a decoy, Jalen Waddle, Ted Ginn after the injury type of thing.
Yes.
Maybe we should have looked more into that, but we were busy eating hamburgers. So, you can't expect us to do both things. So we have to prioritize what we do around here. So, but next.
Yes, Troy Brewer, among others, has asked, which running back will get more carries today?
Tom, go ahead.
Which running back gets more carries? I feel like we've been asked this before, and I've answered it.
We haven't done carries necessarily. It's been yards.
Okay. Yeah, I think Mayan Williams gets the most carries tonight. I think all three, not Steel Chambers, Master Teague, Mayan Williams, Trey Henderson all get minimally 6 to 10 carries. Mayan Williams, maybe Mayan Williams has 15 and the other two guys have 10 and 12 or 8 and 10 or something like that. I still think Trey Henderson is the one who ends up with the most yards, but I think Mayan Williams is probably the one who ends up with the most carries based on the fact that he's been running first for most of the fall.
Yeah, I agree. We both think Mayan Williams. However, I believe Mayan Williams rush for at least 82 yards. You don't believe he will. You think Travion Henderson will rush for at least 75 yards and lead the team in rushing, which we'll see. I think we all know that it will be Mayan Williams, though.
Yeah, I got a fun one right here. Where did it go? Yeah, Jordan Kapler. Can I ask Tom why all Mets fans are just bad people? Thanks in advance.
That's a great question. It's a question we all think in our minds. And then you meet some Mets fans and you're like, oh, that answers that. But Tom, why do you think it is?
I don't think Mets fans are bad people. I think the universe just treats us as if we've done something terrible in a past life. I think that's really where the confusion maybe comes in. Because here's what you have to remember about Mets fans. Most of us are from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area, an hour or two around the radius around the city. And when you live there and you want to be a baseball fan, your region presents you with two choices. The Mets or the Yankees. I mean, would you rather I was a Yankees fan? Because I can tell you, historically, that is not a choice that has played real well outside of that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area.
So why are Mets fans bad people? You're right. Maybe they're good people because they didn't want to be Yankees fans. So let's give them a chance. I'm not saying give Tom a chance. I'm saying if you have Mets fans in your neighborhood, give them a chance.
Jordan Kapler taking a shot at Tony right now, too, and asking why he's not dressed to match the equipment truck.
I like that. If you missed yesterday's show, we were going to do it inside, and the music was loud, and there's a band in here. So then we were going to go outside, and then there was a band outside, warming up with drums. So we could go around the stadium. And the only place we could do it was in front of the Minnesota equipment truck, which is a lovely shade of maroon. Tony, kind of unthinkingly, you just kind of get dressed and throw on a shirt in the morning, wore a maroon shirt. So he looked like Buster Bluth being a Milford man. A Milford man is, neither seen nor heard. That was Tony in front of the equipment truck yesterday. Now this is a little trickier. You have to have green pants and a maroon. And I got to tell you, green and maroon, I'm not a fashion expert, but I don't think it goes that well together.
You're right, Tom. You're not a fashion expert.
A lot of people, I've been asked this several times, with Cam Brown out, what does that corner rotation look like? Who steps up? Who might see the field, etc.?
Yeah, we're asking the same question. I think if I give you Ryan Watts or Leggy Cavazos to be that starting corner, we heard Leggy Cavazos was kind of rising. Ryan Watts left spring really well. Demario McCall has been with the ones at times. Denzel Burke has been on a tear coming up. So I really have no good odds other than I would say Ryan Cavazos.
I disagree. Demario Burke, I think is it's one of those things where as you're going through the names, I'm like, it could be. Oh, that could be. Oh, yeah, that's actually he could. Oh, and I bet it could be. I think of those four, Denzel Burke is the least likely to me, just because it's a true freshman who he hasn't ever played before. I don't think you're going to just throw him out game one. So I think of the four, I'd put him at the fourth on that list. But I mean, you could tell me it was any of the other three in any order, and I kind of go, yeah, okay, I could kind of see that.
I guess I will go Legend Cavazos just because. You want to take a stab just so you can put it down on paper?
Sure, I'll go with Ryan Watts.
Okay, and now when it's Demario McCall, people are going to go crazy because this is a guy who couldn't play at Ohio State at running back, and now he's starting at corner. Who recruits corners around here? Apparently nobody. What if it's Ja'Kalen Johnson or Jordan Hancock?
I would be very surprised if it was Ja'Kalen Johnson or Jordan Hancock because, for the same reason that I'm kind of writing off Denzel Burke, the difference between Denzel Burke and Ja'Kalen Johnson and Jordan Hancock is Denzel Burke was in for the spring. So he's ahead of where those two guys are in terms of prep. I think the only person who came in the fall who you will see playing some meaningful snaps today is JG Tuimoloau. I can't really envision any of the other guys who were late enrollees coming in and being like immediate impact guys. I mean, you might see like Donovan Jackson if they get the second team offensive line in, something like that, but and you'll probably see those guys. You'll probably see Denzel Burke. You'll probably see one of those other corners, but I don't think they're like on the field in meaningful snaps in the second quarter or anything.
Who you taking, Kevin? What's your guess?
I'm reading lips because it's loud in here. I feel like I'm at the discotheque right now. I'm going to combine a couple of questions.
Wait, no, first, who do you think is going to start at corner?
Who's going to start at corner opposite Seven Banks?
I mean, obviously it's going to be wonder athlete Demario McCall.
Okay, all right.
I mean, he is in his 10th year after all.
True.
Unless it's DeWario McCall.
All right. I'm going to combine a couple of questions as I'm reading lips because it's so loud here. Patrick Lynch wants to know over/under of 1 TD for the freshman receivers, and DK wants to know who scores the first Ohio State TD.
First TD, I'm going to go with Mayan Williams. I think it comes on the ground, somewhere inside the 10-yard line, something like that, a vulture touchdown. Everybody else does the work. He comes in and cleans it up. Who do you think the first touchdown goes to?
I was going to go with Mayan Williams, so I guess I have to pick someone else now.
Demario?
Probably not Demario. Man, if he has a pick six on that first drive, I'm going to be so mad. Let's see. I'll go with Chris Olave on the first one.
Makes sense. Nice 48-yard post route.
Yeah.
Now, the over/under on freshmen receiving touchdowns, to me, you said 1, right? I can't go under that.
Is it true freshmen?
True freshmen.
True freshmen.
If I'm going to bet it, I have to go over because I'm not going to take an under on something I think is like if I'm going to bet on something, I want to have some fun with it. Betting a freshman, one of these freshman receivers to not score, seems like a kind of a jerk bet. It's like, these kids today always thinking they can score touchdowns. I'm going to say you're not. So I would go over. I probably, though, wouldn't bet it.
Yeah, that seems like absolutely that could happen. But you're asking an awful lot, and I mean, how many touchdowns are they going to score tonight? 5. So okay, you just gave one to Mayan Williams. You gave Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson touchdowns in your bold predictions. So there's 3. We know Jeremy Rucker's going to have 5 catches, so that's probably another 2, and so all of a sudden you're at a touchdown. So I'm with you though. You don't want to say no because it's like betting the don't come line at the craps table. Like it's just you're just kind of being a jerk. So I don't expect it, but I obviously won't be remotely surprised if it happens because they're going to be. I mean, I had them with more than 4 catches and more than 50 yards. So one of those ending with a touchdown would not be remotely surprising.
Because I don't even think we went like a 1.5 touchdowns with Olave and Wilson. I think you took the under on that one, didn't you? Did we talk about that one?
We have talked about that. I don't remember if we talked about that on a podcast or just in the car on the way here or something. So, I mean, I think you probably go over on that one because you could have Chris Olave get 2 touchdowns. You could have Garrett Wilson get 2 touchdowns. Your prediction, which was 1 Wilson, 1 Olave, that one is like, ooh, that's pretty spicy.
That's a bold prediction.
It is bold.
This one's more of a comment, and it's from Matthew Eater, and he says, hats off to you, Kevin Noon. Why, thank you. A very impressive production, at least from the AV side. Maybe get better-looking guys on camera.
I guess you found Noon's burner account?
I think I'm going to have to come over there and look, see if there actually is a comment, or if he's just like, and he should get a raise.
What else?
I'm working on it. Joe Hearns, does Jack Sawyer see the field tonight?
Oh, yes. Jack Sawyer will see the field tonight. Remember, they have 3 healthy veteran defensive ends. That's not enough. They're going to rotate Jack Sawyer in. He's going to play. He'll be in there in the first quarter, in my opinion.
Yeah. Does Jack Sawyer play tonight? It is an easy yes. Does Jack Sawyer play in the first quarter tonight? Is probably an easy yes. Does Jack Sawyer play on the first drive tonight? That I think is the question that's maybe more 50-50.
Right, yeah. But yeah, he's going to be out there, number 33. So keep an eye out.
jumping back into my starred questions here. Live for diecast. Over under 300 combined yards for C.J. Stroud.
Over under 300 combined yards for C.J. Stroud. I'm going under because Justin Fields didn't have a lot of games where he was over 300. And if they're running the ball like they think they can, and C.J. Stroud isn't doing much of it, I'm thinking C.J. Stroud somewhere between like 220, 250 yards passing, something like that. And I don't see him, 50 to 80 yards rushing, unless, he just bust off 2 48-yarders.
I was going to say about 250 passing and like 20 rushing. So, yeah, I would take the under on that one. And honestly, if that number's higher and it's carried by a lot of passing yards, that might not be a good thing for Ohio State. If C.J. Stroud has a good night, but a low passing yardage total, that would be good news to me for Ohio State, because it means they're moving the ball. He's not turning it over. They're probably moving the ball, and they can move the ball on the ground, which means they're probably dominating the trenches, which is what you really want.
Yeah, if he throws for like 175 yards, Ohio State wins 42-17, something like that.
I mean, if he throws for 175 yards and he's completing 65% of his passes, yes.
All right, Razmataz, I just joined the chat and may have missed it, but when does the rain start tonight, and will it rain hard? And a lot of people are very concerned about the weather.
I don't know that it's going to rain hard. It could start early in the game. I know there's like a 50-60% chance that it's going to start right around game time, but it's going to be spotty. Now, it's overcast as heck right now, but it doesn't look like rain. But if it's starting to sprinkle a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised. What do you got?
Light rain starting in 35 minutes, but again, that's an hour and a half before the game. And then it goes to basically nothing at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock light rain, 12 a.m. rain. So I think you're going to get some rain now before the game. Maybe during warm-ups you're going to get some rain. But then if it dries out before the game, then that's okay. You want it dry as an Ohio State fan. You want it dry from about 7:30 or 7. The game kicks 7 local time, so you want to dry from 6:30 till 10 local time, 10:30 local time, and then you don't really care outside of that. And I know everyone's freaking out about the weather, but it's just, unless something changes, it has been consistently like, yeah, it's going to be okay. You might have some showers. No one's talking about a monsoon. No one's talking about 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's like, yeah, it might rain some. There's a little bit of a breeze right now, but again, I'm looking at the flags behind me on the goalpost, and it's like they're kind of like they're out, but they're not, straight lines like you see them sometimes.
I think we got time for a couple more.
Sam Maloney, over-under parlay. OSU tight ends, 3.5 catches, 50 yards receiving.
I will go over on that 3.5 catches for Ohio State tight ends and 50 yards receiving. I'm going to go over on that, but just barely. Although Kate Stover might get a couple of catches, so they could go 6 catches for the tight ends. Maybe G. Scott gets one in there. We know Jeremy Ruckert will only have at least 4, at the most 4 catches. So 4 catches over like 12 yards, but maybe 3 of them are touchdowns, one-handed. Tom, I think I know where you're going to go on this one.
I'm going to go over and over on this. On our bold prediction show, I picked Jeremy Ruckert to catch at least 5 passes. So right there, that's over on the 1. And then, if he's catching 5 passes, I can't imagine he's catching 5, 4-yard curl routes. So you have a catch and run on one of them. The others are going for 8-10 yards. Like you're gonna get to 50 if you've got 5 catches.
It is the year of the tight end, so we'll both go over on both of those.
I've got one from Choctaw, Montana, 808. Will Marcus Hooker take a step up and take that leap that Malik Hooker did?
We don't really talk much about Marcus Hooker. He was running with the 3s at free safety the last week of camp, so he's going to have to get past Bryson Shaw and find a way to do something with it. What kind of role can he build? Can he be part of a dime package? He's got to be better than he was last year, because last year at the end he was healthy and still not playing on defense, so he has to take a huge step. And Malik Hooker, really, he came out as a redshirt sophomore and just exploded. He didn't really have to. He had 1 year where he sat, and then 1 year where he played a little bit, and then he exploded. Like Marcus Hooker's been a much different path, as we know, but he's got some work to do. He's got a depth chart in front of him to work through.
Yeah, I mean, I think you listen, you talk to the coaches, and he's not someone you hear a lot about. And I mean, he missed the spring, he missed the the summer. You're way behind at that point, and he was not ahead before that. So I think the gap between he and like Josh Proctor has only grown. If Josh Proctor's healthy, I don't think Josh Proctor's losing that deep safety, that deep safety spot. So, at that point, like where does Marcus Hooker fit in? Because they like Lathan Ransom at the cover safety spot. He's not a corner. You've got people like Marcus Williamson in there too. You got people like Cam Brown, Bryson Shaw, like you mentioned. You got the Bullets. Like I don't know where he fits at this point. That missed time as a result of that suspension may cost him the opportunity to get back on the field in a meaningful way.
One last one.
One more. Hung low here from the board. How many rushing yards do we end up with, and how many do we give up?
Maybe that's the real tail of the tape, Kevin.
Huh?
That's the real tail of the tape. Whoever rushes for more yards or rushes, I'm going to say Ohio State around 260, Minnesota around 160. I mean, the last time these two teams played, Mohamed Ibrahim rushed for 157 in 2018, which I didn't even remember that performance, but he's the best back in the Big Ten. He's going to get the ball as many times as he can do, as many times as he can handle it, as many times as there's another first down and the chains keep moving, they're going to keep giving it. But he's 8 straight games of 100 yards rushing for that guy. Do they stop that streak? And where are the numbers?
I think he gets to 100 yards. I was going to say 250 for the Buckeyes, so we're right in line there. What may hurt Minnesota's rushing total is you got to remember the sack yardage comes off of that, and I think they're gonna get to Tanner Morgan a decent amount tonight. So if Mo Ibrahim is at 100 yards, 120 yards, something like that, but then Tanner Morgan is minus 24 yards of sacks, then you're around 100 yards again. So I'm going to say it's I'll say 250 to 120, 125, something like that. But yeah, I think Mo Ibrahim does get put together a 100-yard game.
All right, take us home.
Well, that'll do it, I guess. Thank you for wrapping us up. Thank you especially to producer Kevin for making us look so good, or as good as he possibly can make us look. We will have much more coverage later tonight on BuckeyeScoop.com after the game. We have grand plans for we'll have a post-game show. We are planning to live stream the Ryan Day press conference after the game. We may have another post-game show after that, to kind of tie you all together, keep you occupied, because I know everyone, win, lose, or draw, everyone's going to have there's going to be a lot to talk about after this game. The players and coaches always talk about how towards the end of fall camp, you're so tired of hitting each other and you just want to hit anyone else. That's how we are at this point. We've talked about all of the things, and we have not that much new information in the last week, and it's so we're kind of all right, let's get some new data, let's get some new information, let's get some new let's see how some of the young guys perform, let's see how these guys respond to a hostile crowd at night on the road. Let's see which of the freshmen, it's very easy to say that, we're really impressed with all of our freshmen. Okay, let's see who's made the travel roster. Let's see who's playing in the first half. Let's see who is, getting snaps if this is a close game, late in the game. That's the stuff I'm really interested to see, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about in the post-game show. Do make sure you join us there. One of the best ways to make sure that you were able to join us there is by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You hit the little bell thing. That'll subscribe you to our channel, and what that'll do is then every time we start a new live stream, every time we post a new video, you'll get notified. So you don't have to sit there and refresh the page constantly. You'll just have it up, and you'll get a little notification on your phone like, hey, Buckeye Scoop has started a live post-game show. You'll be able to watch it and hear from Ryan Day, players, our team of analysts, and much more right after the game. So thank you guys all for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we will see you guys after the game.